Someone collapses in the middle of a busy street. Dozens of people walk past. Nobody stops. You've seen this happen before, or maybe you've been part of it without even noticing. The explanation you imagine is simple. People are cold, busy, indifferent. But the real answer is far stranger than that. It isn't coldness. It's invisible math running inside your brain. In 1964, in New York City, a woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked near her apartment building late at night. Several people inside the surrounding buildings heard her cries. Almost none of them called the police in time. The case made national headlines, and newspapers framed it as proof that city life had made people heartless. The question that lingered afterward was simple and disturbing. How can so many people hear a cry for help and do nothing at all? Two social psychologists, John Darley and Bib Latané, refused to accept the easy answer that those people were monsters. They suspected something else, something structural, something that might exist inside any human being, inside any crowd, regardless of how kind that person normally was. In 1968, they tested that idea inside a laboratory. Volunteers took part in what they believed was a group discussion over an intercom system, each person isolated alone in a separate room so they couldn't see one another. At some point during the conversation, one of the participants, actually an actor working with the researchers, pretended to have a seizure, calling out clearly for help. The real experiment had nothing to do with the seizure itself. It was about how many other people each volunteer believed were listening alongside them at that exact moment. When a volunteer believed he was the only person hearing the emergency, he rushed to help almost every single time, and quickly. When he believed 4 other people were also listening to the same cry for help, his chance of acting dropped sharply, sometimes by more than half. And when someone in that condition finally did act, it consistently took far longer to decide. Think about that for a second. Same people, same desperate cry for help. The only thing that changed was the imagined number of other people on the line. Why does a number you can't even see change everything about your behavior? Darley and Latané called this phenomenon diffusion of responsibility. When you're the only witness to an emergency, the full weight of acting falls entirely on you. There's nowhere for that weight to go, no one to share it with. But the moment you know other people are watching the same scene, some part of your brain runs a silent calculation without asking your permission. If 10 people are seeing this, your share of the responsibility is no longer 100%. It becomes a fraction. And if it's only a fraction, maybe someone more qualified, someone closer, someone calmer, will handle it instead of you. The cruel twist is that everyone in the crowd is running that exact same calculation at the exact same time. No one consciously decides not to help. Everyone decides, quietly, to wait just one more second to see what everyone else is going to do first. There's a second gear hidden inside this mechanism, maybe an even subtler one than the first. Psychologists call it pluralistic ignorance. In an ambiguous situation, someone collapsed, could be drunk, could be having a medical emergency, could simply be resting on the ground. You don't decide how to act by looking only at the scene itself. You also look at the people around you, searching their faces for a signal. If no one else seems alarmed, your brain quietly concludes the situation probably isn't that serious after all. The catch, the part that makes this so strange, is that everyone around you is making that exact same read, at the exact same moment, while also glancing sideways at you for the same kind of signal. A whole group of secretly worried people can, together, end up looking like a group of calm, unconcerned people, because nobody wants to be the first one to overreact in public. Latané kept testing this effect for years afterward, running it in different forms to see how far it would stretch. In one version, Researchers filled a waiting room with smoke pouring from a vent, while a lone participant sat filling out a questionnaire. Alone in the room, most people reported the smoke within seconds. Surrounded by other passive participants who had secretly been told to ignore it, most people sat there breathing in smoke, doing nothing, simply because everyone else in the room appeared calm. In another version, objects crashed loudly to the floor of a small elevator. The pattern held almost every time, across nearly every variation they tried. More witnesses, less chance that any single one of them would actually move. That finding breaks the most basic intuition you carry about safety in numbers. You grow up hearing that a crowd protects you, that it's safer to be surrounded by other people than to be alone. But in the exact moment you actually need real help, the crowd can become the very reason nobody moves at all. That explained what happened to Kitty Genovese on that street in 1964. But the same mechanism also explains something far more common, something much closer to your everyday life than an old newspaper headline from another century. Picture a group chat at work. Someone sends an urgent question. 20 people are sitting inside that group. The message sits there. 2 red receipts appear, then 3, then 10. Nobody answers. Not because they're bad people, and not because they don't care. Each one is thinking the exact same private thought. Someone more qualified than me will answer this. It doesn't have to be me, not this time. Picture a live stream. Someone going through a frightening or difficult moment in real time. Thousands of strangers watching at once through a glowing screen. The comments fill up fast with phrases like, "Someone should call for help," or "Where are the people around her?" Curiously, almost nobody watching imagines that the someone being asked for is the very person typing that comment. The internet multiplied the number of witnesses to any single emergency by 1,000, by 1,000,000, instantly. And by multiplying the witnesses that wildly, it also multiplied each individual viewer's quiet sense that their own personal action couldn't possibly matter in a crowd that large. The same pattern shows up in places that have nothing to do with physical danger at all. Picture an online comment section where one person is being harassed by dozens of strangers at once, message after message piling up. Other users scroll past, see the pile-on already happening, and quietly assume the situation is already being handled by someone else, or that it's already too late for one more comment to matter. Each scroll is a tiny, almost invisible vote for silence, cast by someone who would never describe themselves as cruel. There's another curious layer hidden inside all of this. The more anonymous the crowd, the stronger the effect becomes. In a small room, where everyone already knows each other by name, inaction is hard to hide from the group. Someone will notice exactly who stood still while everyone else scrambled. But in a street full of strangers, or a screen full of faceless usernames and profile pictures, nobody will ever know it was specifically you who did nothing at all. Anonymity quietly dissolves the social pressure that normally pushes people toward action. There is, however, a known way out of this collective freeze, and it was discovered inside the very same experiments Latané and Darley ran decades ago. When someone inside the scene breaks the ambiguity on purpose, points directly at one specific person, and clearly states out loud what needs to be done, the effect collapses almost instantly. Pointing and naming hands the entire responsibility back to a single human being, removing in one motion the invisible division that had paralyzed everyone else in the group. That's exactly why first aid training around the world teaches the same simple line. You, in the blue jacket, call an ambulance right now. Not someone call an ambulance, vague and floating in the air for everyone to ignore. One name, one face, one direct instruction. The crowd stops behaving like a crowd and instantly becomes one single person again, holding one specific job. This reveals something quietly uncomfortable about how your brain evaluates morality in real time, faster than you can consciously think it through. You don't decide whether to help or not help, purely based on how much you genuinely care about the person in danger. You decide based on a stack of social variables you don't even realize you're calculating in the background. How many other people appear to be watching? How ambiguous the situation looks from where you're standing? Whether anyone else has already reacted before you had the chance to? Whether you personally could be identified and held accountable afterward? None of this makes you a cold or uncaring person. It makes you a social animal, shaped over hundreds of thousands of years to distribute effort fairly within a group, and to read other people's behavior carefully before spending your own limited energy reacting to an uncertain threat. That instinct probably helped your distant ancestors avoid wasting precious energy chasing after every suspicious noise out on the open savanna, where false alarms could be deadly in their own right. The problem is that the exact same ancient mechanism, transplanted into a city of millions of strangers connected by glowing screens, produces the opposite result from the one it evolved for: collective, total silence, right in front of someone who genuinely needs help. Does knowing any of this actually change anything for you? Yes, and in a very concrete, practical way. The next time you find yourself standing inside a crowd, whether physical or digital, and you sense that strange collective hesitation hanging in the air around you, you'll recognize exactly what's happening underneath the surface. It isn't widespread indifference, and it never was. It's diffusion of responsibility quietly doing its work. It's pluralistic ignorance spreading from one calm-looking face to the next. It's every single person waiting for social confirmation from another person who is, at that very same moment, waiting for the exact same thing from someone else. And maybe, now that you know the mechanism by name, you become the one person who points, who names, who breaks the freeze before it has a chance to spread through the rest of the group. Someone collapses in the middle of a busy street. Dozens of people walk past. Now you know that silence isn't indifference, and it never really was. It's an invisible calculation running at the exact same moment inside the mind of every single one of those people. And the only way to ever break that calculation is for one person, alone, to decide the result of it simply doesn't matter.